Nobody expected this family group chat to turn into a public boxing ring. But the second Karlissa spoke up, the internet knew something ugly had been resurrected. This wasn't a casual jab or a slick set-tweet. This was a full drag, the kind that pulls receipts, emotions, and old grudges back into the spotlight like they never left. Karlissa didn't just criticize Blueface, she went straight for the jugular, and when she did, the past came sprinting back with her because the moment Blueface responded, everything escalated. Old fights resurfaced. Nevaeh's name re-entered the conversation. Homecoming drama that people thought was buried got dug up like a cold case reopened by accident. Suddenly, this wasn't about one insult. It was about a family history that refuses to stay quiet, no matter how much time passes. This is the kind of chaos that makes reality TV look underproduced, the kind of family beef where everyone knows the script, but nobody follows it. One comment turns into 10 think pieces. One response triggers a timeline meltdown. And before anyone can ask who's right, everyone's already picking sides, because when family drama goes public, there are no winners, only receipts, reactions, and scars that never really heal. This didn't begin with a random insult or a throwaway comment tossed into the internet like bait. This started with years of unresolved family tension that never learned how to stay private. Blueface's family dynamics have always lived half in real life and half online, and Karlissa has never been the type to sit quietly when frustration builds. When she finally spoke up, it didn't feel spontaneous. It felt overdue. Karlissa's drag hit differently because it wasn't vague, it wasn't coded, it wasn't wrapped in politeness. It was direct, personal, and sharp enough to slice through the usual noise. Family knows exactly where to aim, and that's what made it sting. The internet clocked that immediately, because strangers argue for attention, but family argues from history. This wasn't clout energy. This was resentment finally getting a microphone. The reaction was instant and predictable. Screenshots spread, clips looped, comment sections split into teams like this was a playoff game nobody trained for. Some people laughed it off, calling it just another episode in a family that never handles conflict quietly. Others leaned forward, sensing there was more underneath the surface than the insult itself, because insults like that don't come from nowhere. They come from buildup. Blueface didn't ignore it. And that was the moment the situation crossed a line. His response wasn't calm. It wasn't dismissive enough to end the conversation. It carried irritation, the kind that signals this argument has been had before, just not in public. Once he responded, the floodgates opened. Silence could have buried it. Engagement resurrected it. That's when old stories started resurfacing, like they'd been waiting for permission. Past family arguments, old disagreements that never got closure. And then the name Nevaeh re-entered the conversation, which immediately raised the temperature. Anytime a child's name comes back into a public dispute, the tone shifts. What was gossip turns serious. What was entertainment turns uncomfortable. People began revisiting the Nevaeh fight like it was a cold case file. Every old clip got replayed. Every past comment got reinterpreted. What had once been treated as isolated drama now looked, to many viewers, like part of a longer pattern. Whether that interpretation was fair didn't even matter anymore. The internet had already decided to connect the dots. Homecoming drama added another layer of gasoline to the fire. What should have been a normal milestone became another symbol of dysfunction in the public narrative. People debated who escalated, who overreacted, and why moments meant to be positive always seemed to collapse into chaos in this family. Each retelling came with new details, some factual, some exaggerated, all designed to keep attention locked in. Karlissa's defenders argued that family accountability isn't betrayal. They framed her words as frustration from watching the same cycles repeat without resolution. To them, speaking publicly wasn't clout chasing, it was exhaustion. Critics pushed back hard, saying dragging family online only deepens wounds and turns private pain into public spectacle. Both arguments sounded convincing depending on which side you were already on. Blueface found himself caught in the familiar position of being criticized from every direction. Some viewers accused him of disrespecting family and refusing to acknowledge valid concerns. Others argued he's constantly provoked, reacting defensively to criticism that never seems to stop. The internet loves extremes, so he was either the villain or the victim, with very little room for nuance. What made this moment different from past flare-ups was how quickly the past got weaponized. Old tea wasn't just mentioned, it was revived and repackaged. Things people thought were buried got dragged back into daylight, stripped of context, and served up as proof of whatever argument someone wanted to make. The past became ammunition instead of history, Nevaeh's name staying in. The conversation made everything heavier. Once kids are involved, jokes stop landing the same way. Even people who thrive on drama started choosing their words more carefully. That didn't stop the speculation, but it added a layer of discomfort that lingered in every thread. The situation stopped feeling funny and started feeling fragile. Karlissa's tone throughout the exchange suggested this wasn't about winning an argument. It felt like venting that finally spilled over. The kind that happens when you feel unheard for too long and decide you don't care how it lands anymore. That energy resonated with some viewers and alienated others, but it undeniably fueled the conversation. Blueface's response, rather than shutting things down, signaled that the wounds were still open. His words carried defensiveness, not resolution. That told the audience everything they needed to know. Whatever happened behind closed doors hadn't been resolved. It had just been paused, waiting for the next trigger. As the story spread, it became less about the original insult and more about the family itself. People started asking why conflict always ends up public here, why boundaries never seem to hold, why old issues never stay old. Those questions didn't have satisfying answers, but they kept the engagement high. By the end of this phase, the narrative had shifted completely. This wasn't a single drag or a single response anymore. It was a reopening of a family saga that never really closed. Old tea wasn't just reheated, it was boiling again, and everyone could feel that the situation was far from over. Because once family drama reaches this point, it doesn't cool down quietly. It escalates, drags more history into the light, and forces everyone involved to pick whether they'll fight louder or finally confront what's been sitting underneath the chaos all along. Once Blueface responded, the situation stopped being a family disagreement and turned into a full-blown public event. This is the phase where the internet doesn't just watch, it participates. Reaction videos popped up instantly, each one claiming to break it all down while mostly pouring gasoline on the same fire. Thumbnails screamed betrayal, disrespect, and family war like this was a pay-per-view event instead of real people airing out decades of tension. Memes hit next. Because nothing processes dysfunction faster than humor, Karlissa's words got clipped and looped, turned into punchlines and remixed jokes that stripped away context but boosted engagement. Blueface's response became a meme of its own, framed as either savage or defensive depending on who was posting it. The internet loves reducing complicated emotions into shareable soundbites, and this situation was prime material. Celebrity commentary added another chaotic layer. Some influencers laughed it off, calling it just another messy family moment that should have stayed offline. Others took it seriously, pointing out how damaging public family feuds can be, especially when kids are part of the story. Those thoughtful takes barely gain traction, because reason doesn't travel as fast as spectacle. Outrage, on the other hand, moves at lightning speed. The Nevaeh fight becoming central again changed the energy completely. People stopped treating the drama as harmless tea and started revisiting it with sharper scrutiny. Old clips resurfaced, slowed down, zoomed in, and dissected like evidence in a documentary. Every gesture got analyzed. Every tone shift became symbolic. What was once dismissed as old drama suddenly felt unresolved and heavy. Homecoming resurfacing as a flashpoint only intensified things. What should have been a normal milestone was reframed as another example of family chaos fleeting into moments meant to be positive. Comment sections argued endlessly about who escalated, who should have stepped in, and why celebrations always seem to turn into battlegrounds here. The repetition made people uncomfortable because patterns are harder to laugh at than isolated incidents. Karlissa's online presence during this phase fueled debate. Supporters praised her for speaking her truth and refusing to protect someone who, in their view, never protected family peace. Critics accused her of going too far, saying, "Airing grievances publicly only deepens fractures that might never heal." Her tone, sharp and unapologetic, left little room for neutrality. You either respected it or resented it. Blueface's behavior didn't calm anything down either. Every follow-up post, every indirect response, even silence itself, got interpreted as intentional. Some saw his reactions as justified frustration from years of criticism. Others read them as proof that accountability isn't his strong suit. Either way, he stayed at the center of the storm, and storms don't allow nuance to survive. The public outrage peaked when people started connecting this moment to a broader narrative. It wasn't just about Karlissa and Blueface anymore. It became about family loyalty, public disrespect, and why generational conflicts keep playing out online instead of being resolved privately. That conversation hit a nerve because a lot of people saw reflections of their own family issues in the chaos. Wild analogies flooded timelines. People compared the situation to reality shows that thrive on family implosions, saying this made those look scripted. Others joked that this was less family reunion and more emotional cage match. Humor softened the discomfort, but it also revealed how normalized public dysfunction has become. As the discourse dragged on, fatigue set in. The same arguments repeated, the same clips circulated. People stopped asking who was right and started asking why this keeps happening. That question lingered, heavy and unresolved, because it didn't have a satisfying answer. The escalation didn't end with comments and memes. It shifted into expectation. Viewers began waiting for the next response like it was scheduled programming. Drama culture thrives on anticipation, and this situation delivered it effortlessly. Silence became suspense. Every pause felt like a cliffhanger. By the end of this phase, the story had grown far beyond its original trigger. It wasn't about one insult or one response anymore. It was about a family dynamic that seems permanently wired for public conflict. And once a narrative reaches that scale, it doesn't cool down on its own. When the noise finally dropped from screaming to a low, uneasy buzz, the real impact of everything that happened started to settle in. This is the stage the internet rarely talks about because there are no viral clips left to loop and no punchline strong enough to carry the weight. The jokes fade, the memes stop trending, and what remains is damage that doesn't disappear just because the timeline moved on. This is where family drama stops being content and starts being consequence. For Karlissa, the aftermath was complicated in ways only family conflict can be. Some viewers doubled down on support, praising her for saying what others were afraid to say and refusing to stay silent for the sake of appearances. Others quietly pulled back, uncomfortable with how far things went and how public it became. Speaking your truth can feel liberating, but once it's public, you don't get to control how it's used, remixed, or remembered. Blueface, meanwhile, faced a different kind of fallout. Not explosive, not immediate, but slow and corrosive. The response to this situation wasn't just anger. It was exhaustion. People didn't just criticize him. They questioned the cycle around him when the same names keep showing up in the same chaos. Fascination turns into fatigue. And fatigue is far more dangerous to relevance than outrage ever is. The resurfacing of the Nevaeh fight and homecoming drama left lasting fingerprints on public perception. What once felt like isolated incidents now looked, to many viewers, like pieces of a larger pattern. Fair or not, that framing stuck. Once the internet decides something is a pattern, every future moment gets filtered through it. Context becomes optional. History becomes evidence. Family relationships don't heal well under spotlights, and this situation proved that again. Any chance of quiet resolution shrank the moment the conflict went viral. Private conversations become impossible when millions of strangers feel entitled to weigh in. Every attempt at peace risks being interpreted as weakness, and every attempt at distance gets framed as avoidance. The room to breathe disappears. The public conversation also shifted subtly but noticeably. Fewer jokes, more discomfort. More people acknowledging that watching families implode online isn't actually entertaining once kids and long-term scars are involved. That shift didn't dominate headlines, but it mattered. It showed that even in a culture addicted to drama, there are limits to how much dysfunction people want to consume. Karlissa's words didn't vanish after the trending cycle ended. They lingered in comment sections, referenced in future debates, resurfaced whenever family issues came back into the spotlight. That's the cost of going public. Statements don't expire. They get archived, waiting for the next moment to be reused. For Blueface, this moment added another layer to how he's perceived moving forward. Not as a headline maker, but as someone surrounded by unresolved tension that never fully settles. That reputation doesn't explode overnight, but it follows quietly. It shapes expectations. It colors reactions before he even speaks. What made this situation especially unsettling was the lack of resolution. No apology that closed the loop. No statement that genuinely de-escalated things. Just distance, silence, and the sense that wounds were exposed without being treated. Real life doesn't always offer closure, but public life makes the absence of it feel louder. The internet's role in all of this can't be ignored either. Every click, every reaction, every joke amplified the situation and rewarded escalation. Attention doesn't care whether something is healthy or destructive. It only cares that people are watching. And as long as attention flows, these cycles keep repeating with different triggers and the same outcomes. This wasn't just another episode in a long-running saga. It was a reminder of how quickly old tea can become fresh wounds and how family history doesn't stay buried when fame is involved. The past doesn't just resurface, it gets weaponized. And the most telling part is that everyone already knows this story isn't finished. It's paused, waiting for the next comment, the next disagreement, the next moment that cracks the surface again. In families like this, silence isn't peace. It's just the space between storms. The audience may have moved on, but the ripple effects are still spreading quietly in the background. And when they resurface, they'll bring this chapter with them, whether anyone wants them to or not. If you made it all the way here, you already know this wasn't just petty internet noise. This was family tension boiling over in real time, with receipts, emotions, and old wounds colliding where millions could see it. And whether you sided with Karlissa, defended Blueface, or just sat back stunned by how deep this rabbit hole goes, one thing is clear. This story hit a nerve for a reason. So now it's your turn. Smash that like button like it just reopened. Family group chat drama you thought was dead and buried. Drop a comment and tell me who you think crossed the line, because this wasn't just about insults or clapbacks. This was about boundaries, loyalty, and what happens when private frustration turns public spectacle. Was Karlissa justified for speaking out? Or did this go too far once it went online? Say it with your chest, because the comment section is where the real debates live. If you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. This channel doesn't just chase headlines. We connect the dots behind them, we dig into patterns, decode the chaos, and expose why the same drama keeps resurfacing with different spark plugs. When family beef turns public and old tea gets reheated, we're already on it. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next drop, because situations like this never truly end. One post, one response, one leaked detail, and the entire narrative flips overnight. While others scramble, we stay ahead. And remember this, old tea never expires. It just waits for the right moment to boil again. This is Celeb SYNC, where the drama connects, and the truth never stays quiet.